What is going on, YouTube fitness family? We are here, special workout because I'm finally feeling back to 100% after being sick. So I'm gonna run you guys through my perfect mid-back workout because I really wanna work on my lats, my mid-back, and just that 3D look. So if you guys watch the Olympia, I know you guys saw Derek Lunsford looking absolutely wild in those back shots. I know it sounds kind of sus, but he looked insane. So I'm gonna show you guys how to create that super 3D Cobra back. Without further ado, let's get cranky. All right, so first movement, we are going to do a compound low row. Anytime you probably hear the saying row to grow. I think that is definitely the case. If you want to have a really, really solid back, you want to have a good amount of compound rowing movements, whether it be single arm or something like this, dual, a seated row, a barbell row. If you want to have a really dense back, you're going to have to row. You can't get away from it. You can't do all like pullovers and pull downs and lat pull downs. Like, you need to row. So we're going to do here, as you saw, the first thing I did was set that in the farthest forward position. So this is an Arsenal machine, but if you guys have hammer strength or something like that, what we're going to do is try to maximize range of motion. So when I'm doing my back movements, you'll see I'm always going to be reaching as far as possible to open up that lat so I can maximize the motor recruitment and subsequently the amount of hypertrophy that we can dig into that muscle. So I'm gonna start off with a couple warm-up sets, and then we're gonna dig for 2 to 3 working sets. All right, so this is my warm-up set. As you can see, I'm not sitting down in the seat. I like to be a little bit more dynamic on these. The reason is because then I can actually shift. See how I shift my weight and use it to my advantage to get this big stretch. Then I pick my chest up, really squeeze through that lower lat. So I'm gonna get a really big stretch. I'll feel it all the way through my upper lat, through my rear delt, through that stretch. And I dig in, and I really feel it through that contraction all the way through my lower lat. Yeah, that stretch is gonna really help me in a couple ways. I always talk about maximizing motor recruitment. So it's gonna obviously lead to more hypertrophy because I'm really stretching that tissue out and forcing it to work harder than if I was just here, right? It's easier for me to move it in that shortened range of motion, whereas when I'm here, I'm really stretching that tissue. The second reason is just my health. So if I can train in these lengthened positions, get really comfortable there under load, it's gonna keep me healthier, keep that tissue really long and healthy. So it makes up your muscles are called sarcomeres. So if you train really short and heavy here, sure, you'll grow muscle, but I'm sure you've seen those guys that are super muscle brown, look like they can't even scratch their own back. That's usually from training in those short range of motion. Makes you very unathletic and very stiff. So this is very helpful for keeping yourself nice and long athletic. So if you want to obviously stay healthy or play a pickup sport or something like that, or play basketball with your friends, you're much more less likely to get injured training like this. And if you're training super heavy and super short, you'll build muscle, but it's not going to really be efficacious for you long term. All right, second exercise. So I did 3 to 4 working sets on that low row. Now we're going to hop into a dual handle pull down. So if you guys don't have this dual setup, which is really nice at your gym, just do 2 single handles, maybe the longer handles as well. What I do is go all the way down to a kneeling position. So the reason for this is twofold. One is I get a huge stretch, get a lot more range of motion than if I were to be seated underneath it. The second thing is this allows me from using as much momentum, because if my knees aren't under the pad, if I jerk too much, it's gonna basically throw me off my balance. So I have to be more methodical in my movement pattern. So I'm gonna go from supinate, so palms forward, and then drive to palms towards me, really digging those elbows in. As I pull back, I'm gonna lean back, really arch my back and pull my chest open. So stretch, drive, squeeze. Slow on the release, really letting it go through the lat. So as you release, feel like you're controlling it up with the lats and not just letting it up slowly. So huge stretch, feel that. Stretch all the way underneath your armpits, drive underneath, squeeze, slow on the up. Just turn it, slowly rotate out to pronation, then supinate as you pull. Really good one for lower lats all the way through your mid back. And you see how I reach my head through and really like over accentuate that stretch. and then lean back as I pull. Really good burn on those. So, form cues, huge stretch. Pop the chest open, dig the elbows as deep as you can. So we're gonna rotate from pronation, supination. As we supinate, it's gonna allow us to really dig into the mid lat, lower lat, really start to create that X frame. Slow on that eccentric, 12 to 15 reps. I ran like way more sets of those than I was planning on, so we're talking to Niall and ended up doing like 6 sets of those, but it was also feeling really good. So sometimes I say, like, even if you have like, let's say 2, 3, 4 sets planned in your head, it feels really good. Might as well run a couple extra. That's what I always say, especially if you have the energy. So now we're gonna be doing an iso pullover. So I always love ropes or like a long handle for pullovers, or the V grip. You guys have probably seen me do with that, but with this, I'm gonna supinate the palms, so turn the palms up. So a lot of people do these and do them here and more upright. What I do is lean over it and go supinated. When I supinate, it's gonna allow me to really engage all the way through the lower lat, stretch. I'm gonna dig underneath and squeeze. So I'm gonna pick my chest up and go slow on the release. So I'm gonna stretch through, really keep those palms facing towards the ceiling, and then drive through, push the chest up, and then slow on that eccentric, really milking it, because the eccentric is gonna be where I get most of the work on these reps. So see how I keep my palms facing up towards the ceiling, really reach for every single rep, dig it in, pull the chest open, and really drive and try to get that really huge contraction underneath the armpits. Slight hold at the bottom, half-second hold, slow on the release. I'm gonna go for 12 to 15 here. Ugh. 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 Ooh, that was a really good set. Another thing I do a lot, which you guys see me do, is I'll do my first like 80, 90% of my reps, that super strict form. And then for those last few, I'll use a little bit more body English, a little bit more momentum, speed them up slightly. And that's just like a kind of an intensity technique where you fire through an extra few reps, maybe not with the same exact cadence, same slow negative, because you've already pre-fatigued with those slower reps. You can drive through 3 to 4, really keep the contraction, and just dig for that little bit, extra bit of hypertrophy at the end of your set. So I would say if you're a beginner, just stick to the tempos, really slow. When you get to failure with the tempo, just stop. But if you're more advanced, intermediate, it's a really good way to push extra intensity. All right, next exercise. So you're probably wondering why I'm kind of doing one of my heavier rows towards the end of the workout. It's because I like to pre-exhaust before I do some of my heavier movement patterns. So everything's really primed, I feel really warmed up, everything's really engaged, the back feels nice and full. So instead of having to do maybe twice as many reps or go way heavier, I'm able to go a little lighter but get just as much hypertrophy because I've already pre-exhausted with some of those other exercises, which are much safer, have a big range of motion, get me nice and opened up. So we're probably gonna go for like 12 to 20, I don't know, here. But nice open chest. I got dual handles on here so I can rotate the hands. So I'm gonna go, again, pronation for that big stretch into neutral grip on the squeeze so I get a really good lat pump. So I'm gonna pull off, chest nice and tall, stretch for it, pronated hands towards the ground, reach, drive, squeeze, slow on that eccentric. Nice proud chest, even on the stretch to protect the lower back and keep contraction, squeeze in. I kind of like look up, not all the way to the ceiling, but kind of pick a point to look up so I can keep my chest nice and proud, even on that stretch position. Really good eccentric. Stretch, palms to neutral, squeeze. Really good there. So you end up close to that 15 rep range, but really going for feel on these. I'm really focused on the eccentric. If I can't hold that eccentric, there's really no point because that's where you get so much more of the hypertrophy. Plus you're protecting yourself. Instead of jerking it, you're not going to get as much risk for that lower lumbar. Obviously spinal injuries might not happen in the moment, but I don't know if you guys have ever heard like somebody's like, oh, I trained back, I was completely fine. Then I went home and I picked up my pencil off the floor. My whole back went out. It's like your back didn't go out because you picked up a pencil off the floor. Your probably back went out during the workout, but just that one little thing put it over the edge. So really be careful, especially when doing a hip hinge movements, RDLs, rowing movements. Really be strict on your form cadence. It's gonna keep you healthy longer. Last exercise, we're gonna do a deficit Smith machine barbell row. So obviously probably my most compound, same explanation as my seated row. I want to be the most exhausted here so that I don't have to use fucking 4 plates. So I'm gonna start with 2 plates. Really good form, try to reach all the way to the floor. Nice proud chest, pulling those shoulder blades back. That shoulders back, proud chest. Aiming for that upper abdomen, rising slightly on the pull to get peak contraction. Cues are pulling with your elbows and not your hands. You're gonna wanna pull with your hands. Try to consciously, obviously you have to hold on with your hands, consciously try to pull with your elbows on these. That's where you're gonna get a lot better mind muscle connection with your back. So lift off here. Nice good stretch here. Chest open. Pull the upper abdomen. 12 reps. Really good pump there. Like I said, biggest impetus is having the boxes so I can really reach towards the floor. But as I reach, I hinge at the hips, but I keep the chest open. So I'm not doing this. I'm here pulling the chest up, reaching at the hips, almost like an RDL. And then as I drive, pull open, aim for that upper abdomen, slow on the release, big stretch, proud chest, drive. So with these, start really light. Start with 10s, 25s, just to get the form down, get that mind muscle connection, get that range of motion, comfortable there. Then you can work your way up to a plate and a quarter. But you should not be doing really heavy weight to start this. Really learn the movement, learn how to feel comfortable in that deficit, getting a good stretch while still keeping the chest open. So gonna hit 3 to 4, probably 3 sets here, finish out, we'll be cooked.